I agree with the committee and I agree with our witnesses that extremism and violence and political murder and all of this is absolutely wrong, no matter what side of the aisle it's on. But I think it's important to inform one of our witnesses today, Ms. Spitalnik, that you need to study your facts more, especially since your group is nonpartisan and your paycheck, I'm sure, is funded by people that donated to your group. That is, again, as you're the senior advisor on extremism at Human Rights First. Actually, there were 25 Americans killed at the hands of Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and we can call them domestic terrorists. I think that's an appropriate word. Antifa was certainly charged with domestic terrorism charges in Georgia, my home state, and rightfully so. And then one of the victims, can we go back to that? Thank you, is Captain David Dorn. Captain David Dorn, and unless Antifa is a white supremacist group, Mr. Rosas, you've done a lot of studying on Antifa. Are they a white supremacist group, Antifa, BLM?
Not in the traditional sense, and I say that because a lot of the people that I'm able to see, they are white, and when they do commit acts of vandalism or they've attacked minorities, so I mean, that could be, but I guess what you're trying to ask, not in the traditional sense.
Not in a traditional sense, but most of them are white, and they are attacking minorities.
And in the neighborhoods and businesses, they've terrorized them, yes.
Right, minority neighborhoods and businesses, which should be talked about more. I mean, Black Lives Matter raised millions and millions of dollars, and then their protests that turned into violent riots causing property damage. But to your knowledge, has BLM ever paid any money to rebuild those minority communities that they destroyed?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you. Mr. Erickson, do you know of any effort of BLM or Antifa to spend the money that they have to rebuild these communities?
I'm not familiar with any of those.
In this video we watch as Marjorie Taylor Greene once again tears apart what it means to be an extremist, whether it's left or right, and how the narrative has really been shifting towards everything is right-wing extremism, when that is not the case. As someone who lived through the BLM riots and the Antifa riots downtown in DC, I can tell you firsthand that I don't know a single conservative that attended those rallies. I don't know a single conservative who punched a Reuters journalist outside my apartment and tried to burn down the 7-Eleven down near my apartment as well. Also was chased off the road by 3 cars, all having BLM flags, as the riots came down my street. I know I try not to get personal here, but this is personal for me because I watched this violence happen up close. In fact, I went out and documented the violence itself that happened the day after some of these riots. Additionally, I was on the ground in the 2016 inauguration when there were protests against Trump and watched firsthand as police and protesters went back and forth and smoke grenades were done. Now, these were BlackRock, these were the people in Antifa masks and things like that. Again, didn't see a single conservative start a problem here. As this summer of love fever continued, all I saw was left-wing extreme violence. But those were mostly peaceful protests, according to the jokesters over at CNN, because let's be frank about the situation, CNN is a basic joke by this point, currently suffering from severe internal meltdowns over hosting Donald Trump, who has the right to free speech, but apparently not for a bunch of left-wing journalists. Now back to the issue at hand here. Marjorie Taylor Greene does a good job pointing out that police officers like Captain Dorn here were destroyed and killed by BLM and their protesters, and other people were injured. She says 25 people were killed in the activities by BLM, but everyone else in the mainstream media on the left wants you to think that only dangerous people are right-wing people. Now, we can debate January 6th, go back and forth on that, whatever, but facts are facts. This is BLM and Antifa's problem with the Summer of Love and the race riots and the other riots that happened all throughout 2017, all the way up to 2021. So quite frankly, we need to make sure that extremism is snuffed out on both sides, but especially we need the left to start condemning the actions of their own activists and their own supporters, because their refusal to do so shows an absolute cowardice and an inability to stand up to the people who are causing problems and giving them bad names. Like I said before, I watched this happen firsthand in Washington, D.C., and for that reason right there, I will never, ever, ever vote for a left-leaning politician in Washington, D.C., because they let this happen and they let it go on for far too long, and instead of taking it down, just let it burn out, injuring and damaging thousands of pieces of property.